It's 2020, one of the most influential areas of work on today's consumer market is being left behind when it comes to its treatment of its employees. The people that work in this area of expertise are artists, storytellers, computer science geniuses, and gifted actors. They keep many people engaged in an activity that they may not have the physical ability to do what others deem normal. What I'm describing is the game design industry, an industry that yearly attracts $42 billion from consumers in the US alone and employs almost 300,000 workers in the US. Yet, there's an underlying issue. This multi-billion-dollar industry is one of the last areas in the United States workforce to unionize. What this allows for is abuse of the workforce that produces many artworks that billions of people enjoy, such as Super Mario Bros., Pac-Man, Galaga, Sonic the Hedgehog, Call of Duty, Red Dead Redemption, Telltale Games, and Walking Dead, and those are just barely scratching the surface. Abuse of the workforce is something that has plagued the industry, with early reports of it happening that go far as back as 16 years. It started with a letter from an anonymous wife of a worker at Rockstar Games. The worker was suffering from crunch, a term that came out of the working habits of working as much as possible a few weeks or months before the release date of a project. The worker's wife was quoted saying, "No one works in the game industry unless they love what they do. The love of my life comes home late at night complaining of a headache that will not go away and a chronically upset stomach. And my happy, supportive smile is running out." Many other incidents followed that were related to Rockstar Games and their mismanagement, overworking, and unorganized work practices. Although the company denies these accusations, lawsuits that were made public reveal settlements made regarding unpaid overtime. Not only Rockstar is responsible for this mistreatment of their workers, but dozens of other companies also do similar things. In fact, some go as far as making non-disclosure contracts for employees to sign so they don't disclose certain work practices. And although many companies state they don't force their workers into crunch mode, it is expected in the workplace. And although this isn't confirmed, it's possibly even a fireable offense in some cases. Workers at Epic Games face being fired by even discussing their work conditions because of these contracts. Some don't agree to interviews out of fear for what the company will do, says reporter Colin Campbell from Polygon. Techland, a developer under publisher Ubisoft, had its workers suffer from corporate injustice by having an unreasonable time frame to complete a project. The mental health of all the workers suffered, and many were in agreement with this in order to maintain morale. And dozens of employees were victims of unpaid overtime, and there isn't enough evidence because of non-disclosure agreements keeping voices silenced. And some real hard evidence of the unfair working conditions at some developer companies um, came at the cost of hundreds of jobs. When Telltale Games shut down in 2018, it had already laid off many workers. This allowed for many voices to be actually heard, since the company no longer held them accountable. We have the story of Nathan Ortega to go off of. He suffered an ulcer that came about due to the immense stress caused by crunch conditions. Now, although he worked for hours on end for the company, he was only rewarded with a shutdown and unemployment. Another company, Riot Games, suffered an employee walkout of 150 due to poor handling of sexism in the studio. Emily Grace, an ex-employee of Telltale Games, regarded this as a cause from the privilege of working in this line of work. This injustice can be corrected, and it's being done elsewhere, just not in the United States. In the UK, Game Workers Unite was recently created with the help of the Independent Workers of Great Britain Union. What this union is doing is enforcing workers' rights in this line of work, as well as making more diverse when it comes to genders and races. In comparison to the United States, the United Kingdom's game development line of work is heaven. Sexism, racial discrimination, underpaid employees, and overworked employees will be a thing of the past as time goes on. It may not completely disappear, but workers can be heard and change can be done. We don't see that occurring in the United States, and meanwhile, racial and gender discrimination is still rampant alongside the horrible working conditions. The United Kingdom is pushing for diversity in the senior roles, where white males were extremely prevalent. Is that the same case in the United States? Of course it's not. The US has a huge problem in the game development scene when it comes to sexism. For a while, even the public was slandering women developers. Gamergate was a time of hate towards many female developers. Hate wasn't the only thing, though. In fact, many were subject to sexual harassment and rape threats in the mass quantities. Uh, the hate movement started in Seattle with allegations towards Zoe Quinn that stated she slept with a journalist to get a favorable review of her novel game Depression Quest. Twitter was plagued with hashtags of hashtag Gamergate that was followed by hate tweets. Now, Seattle is an area where many women held leadership positions in companies that have developed Halo, Half-Life, Left 4 Dead, and Portal. Uh, but at the end of the day, this movement was rather counterintuitive since it sparked a movement within tech industries to diversify. Intel pledged funding programs for minority or women-led companies. A Seattle venture capitalist announced he would only invest startup money in tech companies that had one woman co-founder. And DigiPen Institute of Technology, a gaming and tech industry in Redmond, introduced gender studies into its curriculum and recently established its first gender neutral bathroom. This is a step in the right direction for diversity and justice in the game industry. Now, diversity and unionization are necessary steps to virtually rid the game industry of dozens of issues. And a benefit to this is better working uh, conditions for game developer companies will yield a diverse market. Since games with a diverse workforce can make more issues known through another medium. So, issues that relate to mental health and sexual orientation discrimination can be heard through games that appeal less to misogynistic and discriminatory people. Keeping design employees well treated by giving them freedom of expression and better work conditions will do so much. The mental health of game developers hinders project completion when it's not addressed, as well as their physical health. Stress-related ulcers and chronic headaches won't be as prevalent when the rights of workers are protected. So, take this, a non-profit organization, is a step in the right direction for unionization. They aim to work with companies to address the issues that plague many workplaces. Their goals are as follows: seek to change industry cultural norms around the work environment and work hours to reduce burnout. That was in reference to many people having or feeling a force to need to work overtime. They want to adopt new hiring practices and listen to feedback from women, persons of color, and LGBTQ plus individuals to increase diversity and keep workers around. So, and they also want to promote and conduct research on mental health issues facing the game industry. Now, although this isn't a union, it will do so much for the United States in its game development scene. And I hope when I finish my major and venture into this line of work, it will be a different story because I cannot see myself working in such a horrible environment.